Should we be worried if our marriage-based green card case gets set for interview? Hi, I'm Jim Hacking, immigration lawyer practicing law throughout the United States out of our offices in St. Louis, San Diego, and Washington, D.C. We're talking about that situation where you have filed for a marriage-based green card. You have married a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident, and you're hoping to adjust your status in the United States. And for whatever reason, you receive an interview notice. Now, you may be scared, you may be worried, you may be wondering, what in the heck's going on? Why'd they schedule me for an interview? Those who've followed immigration for a long time know that for the vast majority of the last 20 years, USCIS has required an interview on every marriage-based green card case. They would give waivers every now and then, but it was very, very rare. Now, in order to try to clean up some of the backlog at USCIS that started under President Donald Trump and carried over during COVID, the Biden team has tried to find cases that may not need an interview, and they have been waiving interviews for many marriage-based green card cases. And so now we have situations where people are very worried when they get called in for an interview. And I think for the most part, you don't need to worry. For the most part, there's probably nothing wrong with your case. You might have checked a box wrong. You might have a situation with your immigrant spouse where there's something that USCIS needs to talk to them about. Maybe it's a prior violation of their status. Maybe it's a prior minor criminal thing. For the most part, like I said, in the old days, everybody had an interview. So I don't think you need to be particularly worried, but I do think that you need to spend some time thinking and asking yourself, why did they schedule me for an interview? And if you look over the timeline of your case, you might see, did I get requests for evidence? Did I not submit a lot of marital evidence? I think that's probably the biggest thing. Also, they have a fraud list. They have a list of indicators of fraud. So if the beneficiary was out of status at the time of the marriage or was in removal at the time of the marriage, these are the kinds of things that might cause USCIS to call you in for an interview. If there have been multiple marriages, this would be another reason why USCIS might call you in for an interview. And then, of course, I believe that there's a randomization, a subset of cases in which they just randomly pick certain cases for interviews. They have all these immigration officers at the different field offices, and they got to keep them busy. So I think you might start to see an increase in the number of marriage-based cases still having interviews. I think this waiver thing, I don't know how long it's going to last. Certainly if Joe Biden doesn't get reelected, it won't be back. But at the end of the day, if you get called in for an interview, just be ready. Go over your application, review it with your spouse, ask yourselves the questions outside or out loud, and think about them outside your brain is what I meant to say. And so when you're doing that, at any green card interview, you're going to have the marriage-based portion and you're going to have the admissibility portion. So the marriage-based portion is going to be directed a lot to the U.S. citizen or LPR sponsor, and that's going to be where the officer is trying to figure out, is this a valid marriage? Is this a case that I believe? Do I believe these people got married because they're in love, or do I believe they got married because they are trying to get a green card for an immigrant? On the admissibility side, you have to look at the 485 and ask yourself, are there any issues that would prevent USCIS from approving my green card? And so you got to go over all those ineligibility questions like, have you ever been a Nazi, a terrorist, snuck people into the United States, been a drug dealer, had military service, served in a militia, all those kinds of things. If I were you, I'd have the U.S. citizen ask all those questions of the applicant, the beneficiary, the person who's trying to get their green card. Because when you're in the interview, those questions are going to be asked out loud, not in writing. So if you get an interview notice, I don't think you need to be particularly worried. You might do some self-reflection, try to figure out what is it about my case that is causing them to want to have an interview of us? Why do they want to talk to us? What do they want to talk to us about? And really try to do some brainstorming to figure out why it is that you're getting called in. Don't need to be worried, don't need to be all nervous, but you're going to have to prove up your case at the interview, and I hope you do well. If you are thinking about applying for a green card and you want to hire our firm, give us a call, 314-961-8200. If you received an interview notice or there's something about your case that you're worried about and you're thinking about hiring us as your attorneys, send us an email, info@hackingimmigrationlaw.com. If you just want to go it alone, that's fine. We have lots of free resources for you. We have our Immigrant Home Facebook group, which is a free Facebook group with over 11,000 members in it. You can go in there and talk to other immigrants going through the process. Every now and then I pop in. We have our YouTube channel that you can subscribe to. Whenever we make a new video like this one, you'll be the first to know. You can also text the word show to 314-470-3300 so you get a text alert whenever we go live on our Immigration Answer Show. That's a show that I do 3 or 4 times a week where I try to answer as many of your immigration law related questions as possible. Finally, make sure to follow us on TikTok at Immigration Hacking. Thanks so much, and we'll see you on the next video.